In this video, we are talking to Kosher Plug, one of the most popular NFT YouTubers, about the current state of the NFT market, how he got into NFTs, and all of our biggest wins and losses. As usual, nothing in this video is financial advice. We are not financial advisors. The NFT space is incredibly risky, so always do your own research. And as usual, if you enjoyed the daily NFT content, make sure that you like and subscribe. Introducing Kosher Plug. What's going on, amigo?
Nothing much, man. Just woke up about 3.5 hours ago. Trying to get a little bit of a better of a sleep schedule because I have been waking up like 7 p.m. lately. I'm on the DGen time zone right now. So, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, you're definitely on the DGen time zone. I feel like I don't think I've met anyone in the space that sort of embodies that more than you, since you told us that you have this sleep schedule. Do you feel like that's conducive to your NFT trading? Like, is there a reason for it?
Yeah, originally I always had like I always really was bad. Am I allowed to curse on this? I'm just wondering.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I was
Fuck no.
always I was always really bad at waking up at certain times. Like even with school, like I was really bad with that. Like I think I missed like over 100 days like in high school. Like it was so bad because like I always used to sleep in so late. Like and if you're like late past like third period or something, like they just count you absent for the whole day. And like when it was in high school, like I would wake up like 11:30, 12, and then I would go to class because I'm like fuck it. And I was absent so many times they like literally they're called truancy, and they came to my house and shit, and they made sure that I'm not like being like abused and shit. Like bro, it's it was bad. And then they like drug tested me and shit like that. So yeah, I mean, it was kind of fucked for a little while, but I was always on that sleep zone. But yeah, I mean, as I got a little older and now with NFTs, it's a little worse. Even like when I was like going to college, like I would always schedule my classes like hella late because like there's like no reason for me to like be up like super early anymore. So I'm like, fuck it. Like I only like to be up like when the night's sort of going on, like not all the time, but like I don't like to be in the sun all the time. I'm almost like a bat in that type of sense. But yeah, man, literally like with NFTs it just got even worse. Like obviously like China and that type of Asian markets up at like 3-4 a.m. EST. Like that's when they start to like wake up. So you have to like sort of, especially during like certain time zone pumps, there's different time zone pumps around the 3 to 4 a.m. range. That is when the Asian market starts to wake up. So they do pump the markets. So it's if you kind of like look at charts of 24-hour volume, you can see it comes in waves from when people wake up in their time zones within 8-hour waves. So I mean, you could sort of see that with the Asian market. And what happens is the Asian market usually rises up the market a lot, and the market tends to do really good. And the second that America wakes up, it plummets. But that usually happens. So having a later sleep schedule is usually a good option. But it really does. It takes its toll mentally, for sure.
So you're on this sleep schedule voluntarily, not driven by anything external. Like
Well, it
it,
sounds like it's
what
conducive to NFT trading.
it's conducive. No, I'm understanding. I understand that, but I'm just saying like which came first. It sounds like your sleep schedule came first, and then so it happened to be coincidental that the Asian market was going on then. But maybe not. The reason I'm asking this is like, are you trading something on the like? Do you trade crypto tokens also in addition to NFTs?
Before NFTs, I was just like, because I was working at Amazon before NFTs and before anything really. And every time like I would get a paycheck or something, I would put like a good amount of it just straight out into like I was really big into ADA, so I used to just like dollar cost average into ADA and shit like that. Just like nothing like super crazy. I was more so just looking for my future. I was trying to like just like I was like nothing crazy obviously. Like I wouldn't even get paid super like tons amount from like Amazon, but like over time I figured investing a solid chunk in dollar cost averaging and things that I believe in is going to be a solid choice for the future. Because even if it's like even if ADA is like 50 cents today and it goes down to 25, like at least I had that opportunity in which it could have went to a lot more money. And I'm only playing with money that I could lose. And that's what I only suggest to do in the market is play with money that you could afford to lose. Because if you're just playing with money that you can't, then that's a risky game. And I don't suggest to play it, especially like when people tell me that they want to invest into NFTs and only have like 300, $400 to their name. I tell them that's not a solid game plan. You need to have like at least like a solid cushion of money before you decide to invest in anything. And people, it's kind of ironic how people ask me for like almost financial advice, like when I straight up like came from like Amazon and like just and I'm like 20. It's like it's kind of funny to me how people like come up to me like asking me for like the tips and this and that on how to like become like financially stable. I kind of just find it like almost common sense a lot of the time. Just don't throw all your money in one thing, and be very lucrative with how you spend it, and it's pretty much that simple.
Yeah, and I pulled up Fanabear, which was like to me one of the original kind of Asian market pumps, right? So like this happened at the same time as another project called Capsule House, and both of them pumped really hard. I miss Fanabear, even though it was basically given to me on a silver platter by a whale that I know. He also gave me Capsule House, and I did get in on that one at 0.35, and that went over 2, and I think I sold it right around 2. But Fanabear topped out at like 7 or 8, and when it was presented to me, it was at 0.7. So I definitely regret that one. But did you get involved in any of that, or and also just what sites do you use? Like, are there specific charts that you use? Because you talked about looking at volume on charts and looking at it in accordance to when certain markets are waking up. I'd love to hear about your strategy there.
Even with charts, I was never a big chart guy. I know there's a lot of people who do sort of trade that way. I do use like Icy Tools, and I used Nansen for a while. I stopped using Nansen. I'm just not a fan of their platform anymore. I think Icy Tools is doing a really solid job at how they sort of have their chart formula going down. But I usually just use Icy Tools, very basic stuff. Anyone could really hop on Icy Tools. I think it's like I don't even know, like a 0.06 a month or something. And it gives you access to every single chart, every single thing that's selling right now. And I feel like it's a very helpful tool for sure for a lot of people. Obviously, you can get like expensive like subscriptions to certain sites and stuff like that. But I feel like Icy Tools is it's very general. It's very easy to use. It's very easy to understand. You just literally just search something up and you could find all the data on it. Nothing super complex, and I think that pretty much everyone should sort of have a chart or a way to see like what is going on in the market. And even if you don't, what you could do is you could just straight up go on the OpenSea and then click on their activity page and just watch and monitor the activity there. And that's what I did for a while before I even had charts. If you just don't have the money, to be throwing into stuff like that and just want to paper trade and just watch what market's doing.
Yeah, no doubt. Nick, it looks like you want to ask something.
Not really, but I'm wondering about so a couple of things. So when did you first get into NFTs? What did you end up buying? And the more important question I'm wondering here is, like, you said you were at Amazon. So now do you just do YouTube full time, or like what are you doing? Like, what's your hustle?
I mean, I originally just started doing trading. I was working at Amazon and I was trading at the same time because I didn't think it was smart to just quit everything and just start trading.
Yeah.
So I went from Amazon, I was working, and at the same time, like I would be checking my phone, like on OpenSea, just like buying like pudgy penguins and shit. Like at the time, like it was a very different market. NFTs were very different. Everything was more community oriented and nothing was utility based. So everything was just literal art and nothing else. So it was a lot different in that type of time. But I was literally just watching the market, seeing what people were buying, what people were talking about. And, I got in early on a couple things, which definitely helped. I'm not going to act like, I was so smart that I knew exactly what I was doing at the time, which, obviously I didn't. I just saw the penguins. I'm like, okay, there's a lot of people who are buying into these. I see the dollar price is going up. It has fluctuations, but overall it's still maintaining a good amount of volume. So I'm like, okay, I'll get one of these. And at the time they were like only a few $100. So I was like, nothing super crazy. And, I was just watching them go up and up and up while I was on my phone, just at Amazon, just scrolling through, just seeing what market was doing. And I remember texting my mom at the time and she was like, I was telling her, I'm like, yeah, I want to buy you one of these pudgy penguins. But I was at work. I'm like, I can't buy you one right now, but I think it's a good option, and I'll buy you one of these penguins. And then by the time I got home, they're already like way over the budget because some whale decided to sweep it, and they just kept going up and up and up, and then they went to like 3 ETH. So I sold one of mine, and and same with like Doge Pound and stuff like that. Like that's like obviously like in the beginning, like those were like huge, like you weren't like oh my God, like I'm such an experienced trader. I figured out like the best strategy and how to, trade NFTs. It was more so like really like it was a lot of luck, to be totally honest, like straight up in the beginning of making that like first initial flip to get that easy liquidity. But when you sort of invest in these projects and not over allocate all of your funds, it could have went the total opposite way. If I invested everything into like, say, for example, Dogecoin, and it tanked to like, instead of it going up, it tanked all the way down to zero. Obviously not exactly zero, but like, for the most case, it went close to zero. Then I'd be in the total opposite situation. I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so unlucky that I invested all of this money. And, it's a matter of how much you're willing to allocate, because things could go either way, to be totally honest.
Yeah, we've definitely experienced both directions. I got lucky, and I like to consider myself a visionary genius. And what happened was ended up entering the market at the right time with Bored Apes, with art blocks, with some of these other items that it was just early on. And yeah, on the flip side, now we have a lot of people in our Discord talking about every single project, including some of the absolute worst, bottom of the barrel, and buying into it randomly. And I've definitely got suckered into throwing money at those and just watching it disappear into thin air within a matter of minutes. And it's fun. Would I recommend it? No. But I'm wondering, like, so you had a few of these solid ones. Actually, did you answer the question? So is this your full-time thing now?
Yeah. I originally traded the I totally forgot about the question. I was trading for a little while. Once I made like I think 25-30,000, then I quit my Amazon job because I felt like that was good enough of a security blanket for me to sort of survive if in case NFTs decided to go to shit. So yeah, I was sitting pretty good. I was like, okay, I'll just do this. And I studied the market, just kept buying NFTs, kept trading NFTs. I made a lot of bids during that time. I think bids are a really good strategy that a lot of people don't really utilize too much in the space.
Yep.
Because, if you're low on liquidity, I'm not low on liquidity. If you're low on funds, the best thing to do is leverage your time. And if you leverage your time and make these bids, you won't over allocate into certain projects because you'll be getting a good entry price as long as you're, not bidding like over the floor.
Right.
So yeah, that's usually a really good game plan. I suggest a lot of people to do. And obviously like studying traits is really solid. That's what I used to do a lot, and just watch what traits were selling the most and then bid on those under the floor. And then people would be like, okay, like let me just accept this quick bid so I can get some easy liquidity, especially whales accept bids a lot of the time because they don't care too much if it's like 0.3 ETH difference on their 1 ETH NFT. So yeah, I mean, you could totally make some pretty good money that way. And that's what I did for a little while, especially with like projects that came out of nowhere. Like I know Fanta Bears, I did not Fanta Bears. Was it Fanta Bears? It was
Which one?
Plasma Bears. That's the name of it. Yeah, and I bid on a bunch of those, and I remember because FaZe Bank shielded them on his Instagram stories. So I was like, okay, I'll take opportunity, because like these were sitting like still for literally like months. So I was like, okay, like I'll bid on all of these because people just have them in their inventory. I know that they're not really watching the market, seeing what is going on. So I bid, I think like 0.5 ETH when the floor was like, I think like 0.3 or something, like, cause like it was glitched at the time because OpenSea had a lot of glitches. So it was like 0.3 at the time. I bid like 0.5 on every single one, and people have seen it for like the first time in probably like months that anyone ever, bid on it. So they're like, holy shit. So I got like, I think like 4 or 5 bids accepted, like within a matter of like 30 minutes. I sold a couple for a few ETH, and I made like a really solid amount of money. And I think that day alone I made like 30,000. I was like, holy shit, like NFTs are insane. And and then there's just so many different flips. And I did the same thing with like Oni Force, ON1 0N1 Force. I don't know how to exactly pronounce it, but I think it's code Oni.
Oni Force, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I did the same thing with like Oni Force. I bid on every single one. So time consuming. And I know people had bots at the time to like, just automate the bidding process, but I was still very new. I didn't have any type of bots or anything. I was just doing everything by hand for hours. And I remember people would just like overbid me by like 0.01, and it pissed me off because I spent all day just bidding on all these things. But yeah, I do NFTs full time. I did drop my project. So, I don't want to sound like I'm shilling it. Also, I do have Plug Pass, and that did generate me income as well. So now I'm able to, just do what I do full time, like without having to worry about the markets if they go too bad or they go too low or go too high.
Yeah, because you're building, you know. Do you think that the plug pass was successful, because of the content and the stuff that you did on YouTube, building an audience? Because we do the same thing, right? And I don't think that our NFT would have performed the way that it did had we not, had a really dedicated, audience and everything. I think a lot of people don't understand, building in the space can be done in different ways. Content's a great way to do it. I think that you're a perfect example of that. And what you said about, the offers. I really, really love what you said about the offers, because a lot of people don't do that. And when you think about it, if you open your inbox, people are giving you offers, right? And sometimes if a floor is kind of sketchy and you have something sitting there and it's just not selling, that offer is how you end up getting liquidity, but you probably didn't want to accept it, right? Because it was like lower. But when you're actually putting the offers out, you're playing the other side of that deal. And even if you just get one accepted, it's a little bit of a come up, because like you said, what's significant to you might be insignificant to the person that's selling it. So what do you think about what's going on in the market right
Wait,
now?
hold on. Did we just skip over the question about?
About yeah, I got distracted. Yeah. So do you feel like
what was that? What did we do?
Yeah, hey, it's late. I'm not Kosher Plug. I don't. I'm not up at this time.
Still morning.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, do you feel like your audience really helped you with being able to put out a project and run it now?
I mean, I pushed out a lot of content like before I even, did like an NFT myself, like Plug Pass. I was always pushing out content. Like I wasn't ever just like sitting back behind the scenes, just doing absolutely nothing. And then all of a sudden I had to drop Plug Pass. I was doing everything like giving people projects that were coming out. People were making money just like off things that I was tweeting about, that was like, I was just telling people like, yo, this is sick. And I was doing that for like a couple of weeks, and then people really liked that. And, I started gaining a little bit of a following from that alone. And then, one day I'm just like, okay. Cause I was talking to Brett, Brett Way. He's one of my friends, and he's like, bro, like you'd be perfect for like your own like type of NFT group. And I'm like that'd be sick. Like I this is what I do all the time. Like, and at the time I was very against, NFT groups. I'm like, oh, that's so scummy, people taking money from people. But at the end of the day, things cost money. And that's what I sort of like felt like I was like, at the time I felt like almost it's wrong to take people's money who are trying to make money. But at the end of the day, like it is a business. Like you have to have income coming to maintain, especially bots and stuff like that for the group. So I sort of changed my mindset on that as well, sort of as I got a little bit older. But like as time really went on, I started just like building more and just kept making content, and people almost invested in the Plug Pass itself just because they wanted almost to invest in me, in my future. Because at the time, Plug Pass, it wasn't like always, at like a really high floor. Like we didn't even mint out at first when I first had Plug Pass going on, and it was, I think, sitting at like 16, 0.17 for like a couple weeks. And then people were like calling me like, like a cash grabber and stuff like that, when, it wasn't the case. And people just thought it was just like an exit scheme type of thing. And it obviously wasn't. And, mindset changes a lot when your NFT is down, for sure. But obviously, like over time, I try to build as much as I can, and it sort of got to the price it is now. I feel like the NFT sort of, like all NFTs, especially with passes, I feel like it represents the person behind it the most. If you kind of look at like some of the biggest ones, like Champ has a pass too. That one's doing pretty solid. I know Popeye has a pass too. And stuff like that. And everyone's pass, I feel like it values their pass almost as the person behind it, to be honest.
Very impressive floor and volume of secondary market volume traded. I did not realize that you had 1,600 ETH of volume traded. Nick, what do you think of this?
What do you mean? What do I think?
I want to see if you had a question.
Great job. Clearly, the volume goes up the higher the price is. So I mean, that's a good place. So, but yeah, I mean that's pretty straightforward. In terms of, yeah, what did you want me to say there? Like, what are you looking for?
Man, I wanted to make you uncomfortable. No, I mean, well, first of all, congratulations on the success, man. That's really awesome.
So I'm kind of wondering here, outside of this NFT, so you spend a lot of your time identifying upcoming NFTs. Right now, this market is not supporting that approach. But Where do you where do you usually find upcoming NFTs? There's a bunch of aggregators and stuff like that now, but I'm curious, like, what are your favorite resources for identifying those? One that comes to mind is Minty Score or something like that. It's been doing pretty well, but I'm wondering what other tools do you check out?
Yeah, I mean, I usually just straight up go on Twitter. Twitter's a really good tool. I feel like everyone, especially in this space, are just they think that they almost have to hop into alpha groups, and I don't give that at all. Like people hop into my group saying like, oh, do I need to buy into an alpha group? What's an alpha group I should buy into? And I tell them like, look, don't buy into an alpha group unless you have money to buy into some of the things that we're talking about in the group, because if you spend all your money on one of these passes, you're not going to have money to even invest into 90% of the things that we talk about. And obviously, a lot of these passes have been going up due to like, whitelist and stuff like that as well. In the community aspect as well, like people, we have a really nice community, and same with a lot of other passes. But I feel like Twitter and just places like that, like where it's free to interact, gives the best opportunity for a lot of these cool projects to kind of stand out. And I remember like looking back, like I was looking at Invisible Friends at the time, and I'm like, these are sick. Like I was watching them, like this, they're doing something really unique. I know Possessed NFT is doing something really, really cool if you heard of them. And there's a bunch of projects who are sort of doing that same type of approach with making really cool, unique art. And Twitter's the first place that they pop out. And once you get into one of these projects super early, you're pretty much chilling, and you could definitely make like a solid return, especially like on a project like Invisible Friends. If you got into that early, you're making, especially if you sold pre-reveal, you're making like at least like a solid 10E, like, which is nuts.
Yeah, I sold
Hey,
mine for 9, so
real quick,
I didn't do as well as you expected, but it's all good.
I
Go
just
ahead,
want to
Nick.
let you know that one of our audience members, Mike P, is not impressed, and he's been still watching the show and continuing to comment that for a while. So I just wanted to let you know, not impressed, but willing to stick around. So in case you were wondering, I think a lot of people were wondering about that, but now you're aware.
Hey, Mike P, thanks for
there
that
you go.
positive feedback for us,
So
buddy.
really appreciate it.
But yeah, and what you said too about like, buying one of these expensive alpha passes. Yeah, you have you have to have the liquidity to take action after the fact. And speaking of that, this project, for example, 420 game Green Pass, did you buy into this one? Because this one's starting to cook up, and it was kind of quiet for a while. I feel like this might be one of the kind of stories of this week, because allegedly there's going to be a big announcement the day after tomorrow.
Honestly, I don't know too much about this Green Pass. I know Otto was telling me about him a little bit, but I don't really know too much on it, to be totally honest.
Um, what are some projects that you are excited about coming up? You mentioned the Possessed. We had a call with them the other day. They're definitely building some. The project seems cool, at least from the standpoint, not just the project, but the team behind it has an agency. Well, one has an agency. The other one's now shifting over to this full time. Had another startup. So these are like experienced business operators who are building out a project. So that's always a positive thing. Are there any others that are like on your horizon? And the other question that I have is, where are you feeling about PFPs right now? Like, where do you what do you actually like? Are you burned out on it, like on this, or like how are you feeling about the overall market?
I think, a lot of people like shit on PFPs and stuff like that, but I honestly think profile picture projects aren't really going to go too like, they're not like, I mean, I don't expect them to continue on the same type of path that they are. But I really do think that profile picture projects, if they maintain their like unique art, I don't think that that's really going to go anywhere. Like people are always going to want something for their profile picture on like their social medias. And obviously, like, all these profile pictures that are coming out right now, like there's so many, and it's unsustainable in the current market for them to keep pumping out at the rate that they are. So I think that there are going to be like different changes, and they're not going to be as prevalent as they are. But I don't really see no projects coming out. And I do see a good amount of projects that are very unique, especially like the Possessed NFT, like projects that are really unique, really cool, doing something a little bit different. I think that those type of projects are going to be the ones that are going to stick around. And obviously, in the future, I don't expect everything to be profile picture projects or like art-based projects, like sort of how it is now. I feel like NFTs will more so be used for utility purposes, especially for like companies down the road to like offer incentives for things like that, and make it like 1155 contracts for, like say, for example, like a coupon for McDonald's or some shit, like have an 1155 contract where it gets burned once you use it. I feel like that could be kind of cool, just like something around those lines, and just make it like just a utility based project, or like a ticket to like a concert or something around those type of lines. Even like, for example, you go into McDonald's drive through, right, and you get like a Happy Meal, and instead of a toy, you get a barcode to scan, and when you scan the barcode, it sends you an NFT instead of a toy, and you could play that in some type of video game, right? Like there's so many different applications that you could definitely have, and it would reduce like a ton of cost, especially for like these companies like McDonald's, for example. Like instead of getting these toys, all they have to do is just give you a code that gives you an access to, you know, an in-game character that you could play as. Like it's not like super crazy to do, and you could own the actual toy inside their game, and this and that. And there's so many different applications that they have that you could have for NFTs in general.
So do you, well, I'm curious then, do you play video games? Well, you know, one of the things that we discussed is I'm like, yeah, these NFT, like the thesis behind it has to do with, like, we think of Roblox and some of these other things where kids are growing up in these virtual worlds essentially, and that thus because of that, this is going to be the future. But it's sort of hilarious to me because a large portion of the people who believe in that and are discussing it are not participating in any of those worlds whatsoever. So I'm wondering, like, so there's two parts to this question. One, do you play video games? And then two, do you have, what's your PFP that you use right now? Like, or is there a specific NFT that you're holding on to that you're just like, yeah, that's my vibe?
Number one, I would love to play video games more. I used to play video games like a ton back in the day, but like now I don't have time for anything other than just like working. And then sometimes like I'll like play a game, but like even in that case, it's only like, you know, very minimal time spent. I'm always working on stuff. I got Plug Pass, and then I got WGMI stuff I got to work on. And I have very little time to myself. Like I think I work at least like 12, 13-hour days. Like I haven't taken a break in over like, I'd like to say 4.5, 5 months, like an actual like day off. Like it's like I'm always checking my phone. I'm always doing this, answering questions, and you know, managing groups and stuff. It's just it's hard, but like don't get me wrong, I do like what I do. If I didn't like what I do, I wouldn't do it. But you know, obviously I do like what I do, and you know, I have an addictive personality, so you know, I'm always like checking my phone, always watching the market, seeing what is going on. And I'm not emotionally invested into anything, honestly. So to answer your question about the profile picture type of thing, I don't really have a project that I'm really like I really love that I would like hold forever, because I just necessarily don't like anything that much. Like I do like a lot of projects. I think they're really cool. They're doing something unique. But I don't really have a project that I would ever like sort of really make my profile picture unless it's like temporary. Just because I don't really resonate with anything too much, to be honest. I think that it's more so a lot of the time, in a lot of cases, a lot of these projects are directly for money. Like I wouldn't even get into a lot of these projects if it wasn't like a nice flip, honestly. But you know, like there's a bunch, especially coming out now. Like there's some projects that are really cool, and they were like the originators, like Cool Cats. But like sometimes I like these derivatives a little bit more than Cool Cats. So it's like how do I sort of manage and like how would I make this product that is like a direct derivative of Cool Cats, my profile picture, when I don't like Cool Cats as much as these, and it almost just seems like you know, in the wrong in that type of situation. And I feel like putting your profile picture as like a certain project almost in a sense makes it look like you're promoting what they do, and I don't want to come off as like a promoter for their brand or like anything that they're really doing necessarily. Obviously, like if you love their brand, love what they're doing, like that, it's a different story. But you know, there's always something that could go down. Like say, for example, like even with Jungle Freaks, for example, you could have your profile picture as a Jungle Freak back then, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's super cool." And then you know, a week later, like when the racism like stuff came out, everyone's like, "Oh my god!" Like if you have your profile picture as a Jungle Freak, like you're racist automatically. And it's like I don't like to have my image tied to a certain project per se. Like I think it's cool, like if a project like makes me like a one of one or something, like that's cool, like I'll post about it, but I won't really make it my profile picture unless I'm like really like rocking with it.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that for sure. And I think that a lot of people relate to that they look at NFTs as just, you know, an asset to be traded, just like if you were buying a stock or a cryptocurrency for the crypto traders out there. And I think a very large percentage of the space kind of, you know, again, is in the same boat. I guess I have a question. Do you hold anything for the long term? And I guess if not, are you just always trying to stay liquid and everything's like, all right, my entry point was here, my exit point's here? You know, is there any long-term hold?
I do like Doge Pound. I don't own any though. I think that that could be really solid if they work on everything that they plan to do.
Yeah.
It's not like a project that I see really going anywhere anytime soon. It's just because they're always building things. The best type of projects to invest in are ones that have teams. Because if they don't have a team, then it's just art at the end of the day. And who's going to buy it other than the community? And then what they're going to do is they're going to just keep pumping it on secondary market. And then 90% of the time, or not, I would 80% of the time, I'd like to say, not 90% of the time, they just use a lot of these people who are buying in and hyping up the community as exit liquidity, and they just get out of it. Like, it's at the end of the day, like, art's really unsustainable in that type of sense. But if it is more so a product that has utility backed into it, like Doge Pound and stuff like that, I feel like it's a lot easier to maintain a floor price and not just go to zero, especially with derivatives. Derivatives, a lot of the time, they just immediately tank. And I don't like to even touch derivatives anymore just because of that mindset that a lot of these people have with buying into derivatives. They just buy it really quick and just immediately flip it for profits. But I mean, that's just my opinion, obviously.
And so no projects for long-term holds that you have now, like anything that you'll be holding for like longer than a year?
I mean, I don't think I have anything like that I'm holding. I have a bunch of projects. I think I have like not a bunch, but like I have like 60 projects right now on my OpenSea. Let me scroll through really quick before I forget anything. But I mean, I'm holding a couple Coolman Universe. I don't know how long I'm going to hold these to be. I don't like to say anything on a year, but like, obviously, like I like if something goes up too much in a certain period of time, then I'm not going to hold it. It just doesn't make sense from a realistic standpoint. To, if, for example, Coolman's Universe shoots up to a 70th floor like next week, like obviously, like I would take liquidity. I wouldn't just immediately hold on to it and be like, yeah, we're going to the moon, because it's unsustainable for a floor to keep going up like that. So it mainly just depends on the market sentiment at the time, to be honest.
For sure. So, but you have some Cool Man's Universe right now that,
That's
they're
a
on
good
the
one.
table. Yeah, that's a really good one. You bought
Yeah.
in early on that?
I minted two really, really early, and this was like before the bear market. So, I was holding them, and then I sold both for like 0.2 ETH at the time.
I
So
think
like,
Nick did the same thing. I think
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did
he
that.
did
Yeah,
the
I
same
got out,
thing.
then I bought in higher, which is like freaking awesome.
yeah. So I sold both mine at like 0.2, and it was unfortunate. I mean, I made money. Obviously, it's like I lost so much money or anything. It's just the opportunity value that I could have made, and it's just huge. And I sold both of them at the 0.2, and the only reason I bought back in is because I had a conversation with Danny Cassell. I had him on my podcast the other day. He's a really cool dude. I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna invest in him. I'm not even gonna invest in like the company itself. It's more so investing into him and his brand, because that company is literally his brand, and he's building stuff with it, and he's making like a series, if you've seen it on like YouTube. So it's super cool what he's sort of doing. And there's a lot of companies that's what you want to invest in my opinion, is just these people who are running their companies and they're like backing it themselves as well. Burnt Toast is sort of the same type of way with the doodles. I don't have any doodles. I was always talking about doodles, but I was never able to get a good entry. Unfortunate. But I think that a lot of these projects, if you invest into the right people, it's solid.
Yeah, no doubt. Is your podcast separate from YouTube? You have like just an audio podcast on podcasting platforms?
Well, we have because WGMI, if you hold the pass, you get private podcasts. Working on the website right now. But like once you get these private podcasts, they're just unlisted YouTube videos for now until we have the website
Wait, that's
authentication.
WGMI?
Yeah, WGMI Studios.
Oh, so it's separate than WGMI. Got it.
Yeah, it's WGMI Studios. We are currently building an NFT news platform. We kind of want to be like one of the first to do that type of sense, because there's no centralized NFT news platform. It, like, everything is on Twitter or Discord or this or that. But we kind of wanted to solve that issue by like just placing everything sort of on one exact site. So you could just hop on the site, scroll through, see what's going on, what projects are coming up, risk ratings on the project, and stuff like that, like, and live news videos. So like people will be like literally live explaining what's going on in the markets. Then there'll be like videos explaining what's going on, write-ups on everything, and just stuff like that in general, and just daily overviews and just stuff like that. We want it to be very like almost how crypto is very like open, and everyone has news articles written on every single thing. And we want that, but for NFTs, because there's nothing like that exists, and it'll prevent a lot of people from sort of getting rug pulled, and get a lot of people like from preventing them from getting scammed, because there's a lot of misinformation that does go on in this space. And a hub for everything news related, I feel like is very important.
I mean, we're looking forward to competing with you and crushing you into submission. Very excited for that. That's going to be an upcoming release as well. But in the interim, no, that sounds really exciting. I like that you have live stuff going on the site as well. Sounds pretty cool. And that's through WGMI Studios?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that. Is that all part of the Kosher Plug Pass, or that's something else, or like?
WGMI Studios is its own NFT.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I mean, if you own one of the NFTs, you get access to the news platform, Discord, stuff like that.
Love it. Well, I mean, Pio, is there something else that you wanted to ask?
No, I mean, this was great, man. I appreciate you joining us, and everyone check out Kosher Plug's YouTube channel, one of the more popular NFT YouTube channels in the space. And it sounds like you got to check out that Plug Pass for sure. But yeah, Kosher Plug came on our Twitter space like a week ago. And of course, I was going to invite him to come on the YouTube, and I'm glad that we got to kind of chop it up and hear about, your good days. And we didn't talk about too many losses. Maybe next time all three of us can reminisce on the losses.
Yeah, I mean, man, literally, like if I could just bring up a really quick loss. I mean, I don't really have any like horrible experience where I like lost all this money because I'm very like lucrative with how I put my money to things. But I mean, the only real loss that I sort of took was I got a mutant ape. I bought, I think, for 4 ETH. I sold it for 8 ETH the same day. So I did make profit, but obviously the biggest loss was that I didn't hold on to it. And I mean, you could say the same thing with like Project Gajira. Like I sold that at like 5 ETH and the floor went to like 20 ETH now. So those are like potential quote unquote losses that I sort of faced.
Yeah. Like some paper handing. I've got really bad
paper
ones.
hands is different than losses though. Like I'm talking about real devastating losses. I like buying the tops on things, is what I enjoy. But well, it was awesome to connect. We really appreciate having you on. And if you enjoyed this episode, smash that subscribe, click the like button, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks, Kosher Plug. See you later, buddy.